All right, welcome to this session. And today we will be taking a look at a question, problem statement, which will require us to specifically make use of the do while loop. All right, making using other loops for this particular question is going to be quite a bit tedious. So we specifically going to use a do while loop to make our life simple and our programming simple, right? So let's get into it and see what the question is having for us. Right. So it says design and implement a C++ program for a digital restaurant kiosk system called Gem Express. The program must present an interactive food menu to the customer and allow them to place multiple orders or browse options sequentially. Requirements: menu display. So the kiosk must display the following exact menu options to the user: 1. Pizza, 2. Fried rice, 3. Ice cream, 4. Soup, 5. Exit. Then we have user interaction. The system must prompt the user to input their numerical number 1 to 5. Then we have selection logic. If choices 1 through 4 are selected, the program must print a confirmation message acknowledging the item chosen. Example, if they selected 1, you can display you have selected pizza. So if choice 5 is selected, which is exit, the program should print a departure message: thank you for visiting Gem Express, goodbye, and terminate your program. If any other number is entered, the system must print an error message, right? So invalid selection, please choose an option from the menu. So looping mechanism. The menu must continuously re-prompt and display itself to the user until the user explicitly selects option 5 to exit. Alright, so we can think of an algorithm and then we can get into our IDE and start programming this. Alright, so this requires us to display a menu to a user, and the user is going to make a selection from the menu. And until the user selects option 5, they will still be entering or making orders for some kind of food, right? So let's get into it. Obviously, our user is going to enter a number, so we can declare an int variable and let's give it order num, right? Yeah, we will declare it. We are not going to give any value to this or assign any value to this. So right from here we can do our do while we already know our condition that while the user has not entered 5 to exit, we will still be executing our do while loop, right? So we can do whatever other number the user is taking, the user is entering. So we can do other number while our other number is not equal to 5, right? Then we end this with a semicolon. So let's get into the statement part. Right, so let's display some sort of title for our menu. So let's say cout Gem Express, right? Then we can do a new line. So we can now display our menu information to our user, right? So we can do cout our first option 1, it's pizza. we can do a new line and then see out. The second thing on the menu is fried rice, so let's do in a new line. The next thing we have is going to be ice cream soup exit, so ice cream, a new line for soup, then we can do the last option, which is exit, right? And then after displaying the menu to the user, we can prompt the user to enter what they want to order or select, right? So we were actually given a message to display to the user that, assuming they chose one, we can display to the user you have selected pizza. All right, so let's output a message to the user telling them to enter the number of the food they want to order or something, right? So enter the number for the food you want to order. Then we can take in their input using scene, and then that is going to be saved inside our order num variable, right? So the next thing is to display a message to the user based on what they choose, right? So we are obviously going to make use of the if condition, right? So if they choose pizza, we can display to the user you have selected pizza. If they select anything, we can say you have selected whatever they selected. If they exit, we can give them a goodbye greeting and say goodbye, right? So let's get into it. So if our order number equals 1, that means if they select the first option, you can put this in this structure, right? But it's just going to be one line of code, so I'm going to avoid this and then say to the user you have selected pizza, right? Then we can do else if our order number is equal to 2. Then we can tell the user you have selected fried rice, then we end line, and then again I'm going to copy this and paste this right here. So if they select 3, we are going to show them you have selected ice cream. And if they select 4, we are going to display to them you have selected soup. Then we have if they select 5, right? We can tell the user thank you for visiting JM Express, goodbye. So let's put that here. right? So this will do. Then we can have an else statement to check for anything that is out of what we are offering the user, and then in that case we can tell them what message were we given. So we have, if any other number is entered, invalid selection, please choose an option from the menu. So invalid selection, please choose an option from the menu. Please choose an option from the menu, and this will do, right? Then again, that wouldn't be all. It says the menu must continuously do this until the user presses 5. What if the choice is 5, you can say thank you for visiting, then you terminate the code, right? So let's have something here. Let's get a separator line, and then we can say we are out of the do while loop, right? So we are going to run this program. First, we declare a variable that will store the user's input, all right? And we have our menu here, so GM Express or any better suitable name you can get for it. Then we have one being pizza. This is our menu. Then we prompt the user to enter the number for the food they want to order, right? So when they do whatever selection they make, you display a message to the user based on whatever they chose. And if they enter something out of what we are showing them from 1 through 5, we can tell them they entered an invalid selection. So they should choose something from the menu, right? Which is obviously 1 through 5. So while this is not equal to 5, so if they've not entered 5, we will be running this loop until the user enters 5 to exit out of this do while loop, right? So let's run this. Right, and there are no errors, so we get to see our program. We have our menu, GM menu, then we have this, then we have a prompt saying enter the number for the food you want to order. So let's say I enter 6, which is not in our menu. What are we going to have? So it says invalid selection, please choose an option from the menu. Then we get this again. All right, so this is the second iteration of our do while loop, right? So you can press 1 and order 4. You should expect you have ordered pizza. So this is the message we want to display to the user if they select pizza. Then we can do 2. They will see this. You have selected fried rice. So they are going to see whatever they selected until they enter 5, right? So if they enter 5, we are going to display a message to the user that thank you for visiting GM Express, goodbye. So that will be our last message, and our condition is checking while our expression is not equal to 5, then we can execute this code. But if it is equal to 5, so as soon as it gets equal to 5, we have to break out of the do while loop, right? So we break out of the do while loop, we print our separator bar, then we can say we are out of the do while loop, right? So basically, something like this, it is best to use the do while loop, right? All right, so this will be the end of this lesson. I'll see you in our next video where we are going to take a look at the for loop. Right, see you there.